Hi guys, Ryan here, another special episode of the Space Update today. Coming up on today's show, we'll be chatting with Business Operations Manager Derek Harris from the UK's up-and-coming launch provider Skyrora. Established in June 2017, Skyrora is a private space company based here in the United Kingdom and specialise in design, manufacture and development of rockets to clear the way for small satellite manufacturers looking to access space. Headquartered in Edinburgh, get that right, with facilities across Europe, Skyrora is developing launch vehicle technology to ensure that life-changing benefits of space are realised here on Earth. Before we kick things off, joining me on today's show is...
I'm Astro Roadie, host of STEM Study.
Join us, Joy. And can I start off saying a big thank you for joining us on the show today, Derek. How are you today?
I'm great. It's lovely to be here, and it's nice to meet Astro Roadie and yourself for the first time properly. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. And could we just start off? Obviously, there's a lot going on in the world at the moment, and obviously businesses shutting down, being restricted and everything. How's life been with Skyrora with all the restrictions here in the UK so far? And you've been doing a lot with the local community as well.
Yeah, it was well, I think we can all say it was a bit of a surprise. We could see it coming, but no one really thought it was going to be as bad as it was.
Yeah.
I know when we first heard about it, I was heading off to Washington, D.C. for one of the conferences. And we were sort of joking about going away like, oh no, typical, we'll be in an aeroplane. You normally get your aeroplane cold sort of thing. This will be where we catch it or something. Then we came back and literally... we had said, right, when we come back, we'll do 7 to 10 days self-isolation. This was before any of the regulations were in play, just in case, and then we'll see what happens. Literally got back on the Thursday, Friday, got text on the Saturday, yeah, we're just working from home going forward. So it just was a huge change. So for the business team, like myself, that's not too much of a difficulty because we have our laptops. We can work whether it's California or whether it's the coast of Edinburgh, basically Costa del Portobello, as I would call it. It doesn't really matter. As long as I've got my laptop and an internet connection, we can work. But when it comes down to the technical and the engineering side of things, those guys obviously need to be hands-on. They need special tools. I would hate to try and explain to someone why you're trying to build a part of a rocket in your garden for something like that. So we looked at it and seen what we could do. So the first thing we realised was we could put things on pause because we thought, right, this will be short term, and that's what we did. Put it on pause, and we decided to make full face visors and hand sanitizer for the local community hospitals and those who were in need. So, for example, one of the local hospitals we were aware of that the accident and emergency department didn't have enough face visors. So as soon as we found that out, we got in contact with them, got them down a box of sort of 40, 50, whatever the requirement was the next game day. So we wanted to make sure that we look after the communities that we work in. But going forward, as we could tell this was going longer and longer, we realised we were in danger of missing our targets, our milestones. So we had to look around with it. The government then made sort of aerospace restriction free in a way. So we were still restricted, but we were still counted as sort of national infrastructure for working. So we just had to make sure we had special regulations in place. So full face masks at all time. We institutionalized temperature checks 2 or 3 times a day. Things like that. And we ended up actually taking on another 2 facilities a little bit earlier in the same area that we work in, so we could space our team out and keep them safe. So we could keep that sort of 2 meters distance where possible.
And obviously, although it's slowed down production, you still keep things ticking over. Previously speaking with some of the guys from the production side, they were still going in, but they were doing like split shifts from what I gather from speaking to Robin and some of the other guys.
Yeah, certainly. So the engineering guys, you'll never hear a bad word out of me about them. They work so hard. Not that my business team doesn't work hard, but those guys, they done everything they could. So when we were doing the static test, for example, which you would have seen the footage of, the guys worked in shifts. So because they couldn't all be there at the same time and work on what was needed, it was 4-hour shifts on, 4-hour shifts off, and it let them nap. And we done it all through the night sort of thing. So because of Scotland being that light at that time of year, basically there was only about an hour where there wasn't daylight, and we had floodlights and stuff. So we just made sure that there wasn't anything that was really technical or too hands-on that you needed to pay too attention for. So during those sort of hours of light, it was mostly rearranging things and moving things that needed to be moved. But yeah, that filed all the way down into the actual workshops and such as well. So some people would do Monday to Friday, some would be doing Wednesday to Sunday, and it would just be a sort of split shift that way, so we could keep things moving.
Yeah, it's, hopefully very soon things will come back to some kind of normality here in the UK. I can't say quite the same for Joy over there in the US, but slowly but surely getting there. Which is all fantastic, and hopefully get cracking with a launch and everything. But in a previous show, we previously had the European Space Agency on the show talking about the Boost Initiative and the recent award of €3 million to Skyrora. This fantastic news for Skyrora, absolutely amazing. Could you give us, our viewers, a bit more background on the funding received from the European Space Agency and how it will help the UK in becoming a launch-faring nation once again after the 8 years from the Black Arrow project that ended some 50 years ago, back in the 70s?
Yeah, certainly. So the funding that's came from the ESA Boost is great. With that, while we're fully funded and privately funded, what it does is not only give us money that we can start to expand a little bit quicker, so future workshops and such, but it also gives us that brand approval, that company approval by ESA and the UK Space Agency. So because anybody that applies for these sort of funding grants has to go through quite a lot of rigorous checks for due diligence, all the sort of things you would expect for companies basically that were going to get some sort of funding from a government body, you go through that. But then it also means that they've came out, they've looked at our facilities, they've seen our engine tests, and they've seen Skylark L, they've seen a lot of our equipment and how we're doing it. And I know the feedback we got from them in person was they were very impressed that we had done so much in such a little time, and considering the budget that we're working with. And I think that's what came out of it the most, was they were very impressed with how we handle our funding. That we only went in for 3 million. We never went in for 8, 10, 15, which we could have, because we wanted to show them we can do this on a sort of, this is what our budget is and this is what we can do with it. So then if we decide to go back for anything else, they know, well, these guys are pretty frivolous. They're not there just to sort of fleece the system. They're there to move science forward or move rocketry forward.
Yeah, that just shows that you're a very versatile company, given the amount of money given and what you can do with it. If you look back, 2017 you set up, and now you've got Skylark L pretty much 99% ready to go within reason, as far as I'm aware anyway. But you've got the test stand facilities, God knows how many engine tests. I know Robin said it's in double figures at the moment, if not soon triple figures, as far as I'm aware, but we should be updated on the actual accurate number on that. But it's just absolutely amazing what you've achieved so far in the past 3 years, and it's just going to absolutely rocket off, if you like, pardon the pun.
I've noticed you got a lot of shipping containers and stuff. Like how portable are you, as far as, like, I know, like, you're still working on some things and negotiating some things, so you're kind of stuck where you need to be a little bit mobile with things.
Yeah, so a lot of that came about is probably, they say you emulate the ones that you love, sort of thing, or the ones that you look towards. And I think you just need to look at how SpaceX started out. There was a lot of containerized, being agile, and that's sort of where we've took that approach from. We've looked at it and we've thought, well, why not have our filling stations and various other command stations made in these sort of modular containers or cabins as such? Because then if it comes to it, it could be, well, we're launching from Shetland, we're watching from the Western Isles, but our whole aspect is we want to be able to be agile and launch within a few days. So, for example, if, God forbid, there was a war or some natural disaster and they needed a a nano satellite up there or a pico satellite or something to monitor that region for X amount of time, we would be able to go with very limited infrastructure, launch that satellite, get in place so they could get that information on to help feed back into the recovery effort and such. So that's kind of where that whole thing has came from. We wanted to be rapid and responsive. And then it's just sort of, we've built from there and there and there. And a lot of that, as I say, came from sort of just looking at how SpaceX started and seeing the agility and from their very first sort of launch pads.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you kind of have like a modular setup in a way with all the containers. Like you said there, you just pick up and within reason, if you need to move the launch site, you can, given if you got all the approval via the government's restrictions and stuff like that. But just absolutely fantastic setup that you can probably just be so versatile and just move things from point A to point B in a matter of days, if needs be, for a different orbit or inclination or whatever it may be that you need to do with the payload. During our chat with the European Space Agency on the future submissions and possibility of Skyrora applying for further funding, put it to the European Space Agency with the 3 million funding being and gone, that's being used up in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Would there be potential for Skyrora to come back? And they essentially said, yes, the door's always open. So would Skyrora go back for the Skyrora rockets or the Space Tug or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question there. I have to admit, we would love to go back. And as I say, it's a case of going back when there's a necessity or we think there's something there that's maybe outside the normal scope of what we're aiming to do, which the additional funding would help with. So you mentioned the Space Tug there, for example. It's got great potential. And I know from speaking with ESA, it's something that it piqued their interest a little bit because of the ability to refuel satellites that are already up there, repurpose and deorbit. So it's basically helping a little bit with space debris for dead satellites and things. So it's very early generation one of this. And the more we can sort of put forward into it, the more opportunities there's going to be with it. There's not a huge amount of difference between the Space Tug and what you would need for a lunar landing vehicle, for example, or other types of vehicles. So I would certainly expect if there was a need that ESA was looking for example, say vehicles to land on asteroids or the moon, things like this, and there was a call for it, we would certainly look to put forward and work with ESA again, because it's been an absolute pleasure, the feedback and just learning more and more about space from basically the national agencies.
Recently, we had an announcement from the government. MP Grant Shapps, Secretary of State for Transport, made an announcement a few days ago. Today marks a pivotal moment for UK spaceflight ahead of this month's G7 meeting. These regulations pave way for us to be the first country to launch from Europe, with sites planned across the UK. He said, I want to inspire youngsters to reach the skies as we build back better. Developed with the UK Space Agency and the Civil Aviation Authority, these new regulations being laid in Parliament will mean satellite rockets can launch from the UK soil for the very first time, with spaceports planned for Cornwall, Wales and Scotland, which is just absolutely fantastic news. And fantastic news for your Skylark L rocket, which is essentially waiting in the wings, ready to go, isn't it, Derek, I think?
Yeah, so as you said earlier, Skylark L is 99% ready to go. That 1% was basically waiting for the regulations and the announcements that were sort of going through yesterday. I know our legal team's going through and reviewing to see what needs to be done to allow that to get launched this year. But I think what we need to do is, you mentioned earlier how we turned around to help our local community and sort of reach out. It would be so easy for us to just be blind to it and saying, well, you promised us regulations by XX and X dates, and things have been a bit slower than that. But people have been pulled away from their normal roles, whether that be the UK Space Agency or HMRC or any other government departments, all to do with the pandemic. So that you have to give them a big round of applause for actually getting out what they've got and the timescale that they've got. As I say, it would be so easy just to sort of take the bitter pill and go, no, you're slower than you said you would be. But they've pushed forward to sort of support the real heroes of the NHS for it. From my point of view, I have to agree. This is what we've been needing: a big push, a big announcement to get people excited about space again in the UK. If we don't get the children excited about it, who's going to be our future engineers? Who's going to be launching in 10, 15 years' time when I'm hopefully retired and sitting on a beach with my dog? Who's going to be launching the rockets for us? So we need to get the kids excited now so they know where they can go and work
so you can have a nice
going forward. Very much. So I'm not looking for anything too much. Just somewhere nice. And it doesn't even need to be sunny. Just where there's water and sand for the dog.
And the potential for Skyrora to be the first company to launch in Europe, that must be absolutely amazing prospect to potentially be the first one to do that in Europe.
Yeah, to be honest, to be first is everything. Not just reputation, but it proves out everything that we've done. The whole approach that from our head of engineering, Dr. JJ Marlowe, down to our accountants, Suzanne, Victor, Kate, everything that we've done would be proved out has been done the correct way and for the correct purposes once that launch goes, on that very first launch. And I'm sure you'll see a lot of smiley faces, not only from us, but from the government for that purpose. But doesn't mean if we don't make first, it's not great. Well, unfortunately, I'm Scottish. When it comes to, you always want to win everything we enter. I'm used to disappointment, especially in sports. But I think looking out there, you've got some great competitors out there. You never speak. I've always been brought up that you don't speak bad of people. And if you're going to, you just don't speak about them at all. So you look at the likes of RFA and how tremendously well they've done, and Hyperimpulse and how well they're doing. And, like these guys, if you'd look 5-10 years ago, there was a lot of people out there with a PowerPoint just saying, well, we're going to build these rockets. Well, we're now 4 or 5 years down the line, and you're seeing the ones who have basically were out to just grab a little bit of money that was available at the time, and those that are actually putting hardware out and testing hardware. So it's a friendly competition for me.
Yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. And potential launch end of year, or do you think more early 2022?
Oh, well, Skylark L, if I get my way, will go. I'm hoping to go late August, early September.
Yeah.
As I said, depending on what the regulations say, my legal team come back to me. It'll depend what we go with that. But I know we've spoken with a lot of the with Shetland and Spaceport One about trying to get Skylark L flying from there. It all depends on the regulations and what our legal team sort of translates that to.
Yeah, because you essentially have your own launch pad and everything already within reason just to set up and go, referring back to that like modular system and everything.
Again, you have to. Another shout out for myself would have to be to the spaceports, because they're all going through their planning processes. And for anyone that's ever built anything or had to do anything with planning, it's a difficult process. If it's a house, if it's a factory, but when you're trying to do a launch site, there's so much that's worked into there. And because we're so close with them, we get to see the ins and outs of what they're doing, how they're trying to make it environmentally friendly and sort of sustainable to as much as humanly possible. So these are the main key things that I'm seeing with them. So the guys are really doing this as well, and it seems to be something the UK and Scotland are really, really focusing on with the space market, is to try and be environmentally friendly, sustainable, or to work at least towards being the best of what we can be.
Yeah. And on the environmentally friendly topic, you've obviously got your own Ecosene fuel. We've talked about this previously with Robin and the engines on the Skyrora rocket. Obviously, Skylark L is just using the high-grade peroxide and kerosene. Still a reasonably clean burning fuel, but obviously even better with the Ecosene, because it's essentially using materials that would have ended up in landfill or elsewhere, just rotting away in the ground, not doing any good for the environment. But you guys are taking that, breaking it down into something tangible and something actually useful, launching satellites and everything up into space with Ecosene.
I think that's one thing I can maybe give you a little exclusive on. We're hoping to have our demonstrator site for Ecosene coming to the UK within the next sort of 6 to 12 months. And I'm sure when I get that up and running properly again, I'll happily come on, or if you're up in the area, we'll get you up so you can have a little tour.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'd be happy to try and get somebody out there.
Joey might have to take a flight or two to get here, though.
yeah, there might be a layover involved.
We'll get you over here.
Well, that's okay. I'm sure if we get you over here, Joey, it's a layover then a hangover, so it's not a bad
thing. Is there any other updates that you'd like to share, Derek, other than that thing on Ecosene?
Well, I think the big one just now, and again, it probably goes back to what the Transport Minister was saying, was about the future. So I'm not too sure if you would have heard, we recently put out for our engineering interns as well as our business interns. So I thought I was in a hard situation going through our business interns when we had 50 applications. And some really, really good applicants in there. And we had to narrow that down to about 10 to do interviews and then to take one person. We ended up taking two because we couldn't decide between the two. But if we looked at the engineering side, there was 2 positions there and there was over 300 applications. And the thing is, you look at them and how do you start to sort of bring them down other than a matrix-based approach? And so that's what the team's having to do, and they're still actually going through them. But that's 300 people wanting 2 internships. So that just makes us think, well, what else is going on? How can we help? So we were talking about this at the advisory board, and Tim Peake, the former ESA astronaut who is on our board, was saying, well, why don't we speak to the UK Space Agency, say, well, we've got X amount of these. Is there other people, is there other programs that you're aware of that we can maybe pass them over to? So we're looking into options with that as well, because we wish we could take all 300.
Right.
We have a bit of a rule that we need so many experienced heads to every intern, because there's no point bringing someone on when they can't learn and can't have that backup and that experience with them.
Fantastic. Got a question in the chat. Cargay just asking from Becoming Multiplanetary on the show. What's the major milestone that you're most excited to reach? What challenges do you need to overcome to reach it? That's
a very good question. I think there's 2. For me, there's 2 main challenges. I can't say there's one, because I really want to see Skylark go launch this year, because it'll be the first UK commercial rocket to go above the Kármán line, and that for me is big, considering the company will be just turned 4, give or take, when it goes by a month or so. But then the next one will be the year after, obviously, the first demonstrator XL going. To see both of these and that being done in less than 5 years, to me, is amazing. And I always laugh when people talk about Scotland, because they say that we're always very inventive, we have great engineers. But with Skyrora, there's been that we've pulled in the best. So a lot of engineering companies go out, have an idea, and then have to go around scrambling to try and get funding in from VCs, things like that. Whereas we've been back from the very beginning and then went and hired the people we've wanted and required. So the likes of Dr. J.J. Marlowe from Kingston University, Robin Haig, who you spoke about. There's plenty I could go into list, but if we do that, we'll be here for another 3 hours. But those sort of things, it gave us that prudence that we could take what we wanted. We knew what we had. We knew our funding. We knew our balance. So to see it going from basically five men in a room, or 5 people in a room. I shouldn't say 5 men. There's females there as well. So 5 people in a room to basically a company that's going to be near about 300 people and have launched 2 vehicles into space. It's just going to be an amazing day.
Yeah, just rapid development, and
Absolutely.
Hopefully it'll just carry on at the same pace and just absolutely take off. Is there anything else you want to come in with, Joy, before we wrap everything up?
Yeah. It seems like working with the various like space agencies, ESA, NASA, and probably some others scattered around the globe, they probably like want to help as much as they can. I mean, they've got restrictions and regulations they've got to follow as far as what they can help you with, even as far as like consulting and things. Have you like had like some real awesome experiences with an agency maybe you could tell us about?
Yeah, so because I try and looking at licenses for if we're launching overseas. So I spoke with the UK Space Agency, the Australian Space Agency, equivalent South American one, and the FAA for launch licenses. And I have to admit, I love the FAA because it's such an easy to use system for us. And again, please don't take that as me having a kick at our system because it's in its development. But for someone to be able to have something, well, and it's just like a tick box exercise for them is great. So you're going through, and after seeing that, it's just given me so much hope for what the UK can develop, because I know the UK is speaking obviously with the space bridge to Australia, so they're talking with them, they're talking to the Americans, and they're talking all around the world and with ESA to try and get the regulations correct and liability and all this. So seeing how it actually is in play in America and knowing that the UK is looking to not just emulate it, but take the best parts of that, the best parts of New Zealand, Australia, and just make one big. That for me, that was absolutely exciting. So I would have to say the one that I've had great fun dealing with would be the Americans, and it's just because, as I say, that I'm not an engineer. I've came from a banking and finance sector background, so to grow and learn as I have been with the UK Space Agency, but then to see like, oh wait, there's the bigger brother. Oh my God, that's so cool. That's what it was like. I was kind of in awe when I was speaking to them, like, yeah, this is going to be good. This is going to be awesome. And it just gave me it's strange to say you get a boost from sort of going through paperwork, but it gave me a boost knowing how not easy it's going to be, but how simplified it's going to be for people to actually launch. And it goes back to us trying to bring space back to the normal person and for space to be used for day-to-day use. So that was the whole reason it was exciting.
Fantastic.
Cool. That's a good answer. I like that.
But absolutely a big thank you, Derek, for popping on the show today. Would you like to tell viewers where they can find Skyrora online?
Yeah, certainly. If you'd like to find out more about Skyrora, your best place is to check us out on Twitter, which is at Skyrora _LTD, I believe. Facebook is just Skyrora. And then if you search us on YouTube for that as well. We do have a TikTok channel. I don't have a clue what it is, but we're hoping to sort of get more and more out on that.
I heard you.
I've said this before. Yeah, I've said it before. I'm closer to 40 than I am 14. So when it comes to TikTok, I'm a little bit out of my zone. So that's why we're looking at all the interns, honestly, so they can come on and try and teach me how to use it. A bit of a dinosaur here. And
of course, up on the Skyrora website, skyrora.com, you can actually buy some Skyrora merch up there, like you're modelling right there, Derek.
That's it.
So if you want to get your Skyrora hat or t-shirt, go up on the website and get some from there. But if you'd like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/Total Space. Like our newest Patreons this month, Michael Mars and Ryan MacDonald. You can get early access to episodes, chat with special guests like Skyrora today, join our Discord community, and lots of other exclusive content at patreon.com/Total Space. I've been Ryan from the Space Update.
I'm Astro Rody from STEM Study.
Thanks for joining us today, Joy.
And I'm Derek Harris from Scotland, funnily enough.
Thanks for joining us, Derek. And as always, like and subscribe right here on YouTube and Odyssey. I'm Ryan. This is the Space Update. Catch you next week.